Players who have embraced the Odin are really clever.
As a viewer, I still get annoyed watching it.
The Odin is very strong, but I don't think it's broken.
It's just outrageous.
At this year's Champs, we saw the unthinkable, NRG going on a miracle run and winning the biggest trophy in Valorant. While everyone played fantastic, the breakout star of the tournament was Brock. In the grand finals, Brock topped the scoreboard going plus 23 across the 5 maps, putting up a 1.27 rating and a 244 ACS. This was largely due to the use of his favorite gun, the Odin. Throughout 2025, it seems like the Odin got significantly more play, going from a map-specific gimmick to a universally viable pick if it's in the right hands. And those right hands weren't just Brock's. Everyone was experimenting with the Odin this season. With that in mind, we want to take a deep dive into the history of the Odin, why it became so popular in 2025, and see if we can expect more of this behemoth of a gun going into 2026. But before we can get into any of these, let's take a look at the Odin as it stands right now. As of patch 1108, the Odin costs 3,200 credits, has a magazine size of 100 bullets, plus 200 spare rounds. It takes a massive 5 seconds to reload, but again, you've got 100 bullets in the magazine, so it seems like a fair trade-off. It has some of the highest wall penetration in the game, making it an absolute beast at spamming wallbangs. It does massive damage within 30 meters, and only slightly less outside of that range. Besides the reload speed, the only real drawback is that your movement speed is 5.13 meters a second when it's equipped. And again, it's really not that bad considering the Vandal is 5.4 meters per second. So that's where the Odin is right now. But what about in the past? Surprisingly, the Odin hasn't had many changes over Valorant's history. Just 3 small updates and patches, including one from the beta. Way back in patch 0.5, the Odin was buffed, reducing the amount and intensity of horizontal recoil after the first 8 bullets, meaning it became way easier to control left and right when unleashing it at its full windup. The Odin stayed this way for over a year until patch 3.0, where it got slightly nerfed. This patch changed the walking inaccuracy from an insane 0.5 to a more reasonable 2.4, meaning you now were more punished for trying to walk peek with the gun. The Odin stayed this way for almost 3.5 years until patch 9.10. Here, the gun was slightly nerfed again, changing the walking accuracy from 2.4 to 3 and the running inaccuracy from 6 to 6.5, essentially doing the same thing as the previous patch, just making it harder to swing and peek with the gun. So if the Odin hasn't changed much since release, why did we see the gun rise to prominence in 2025? Sure, we saw the Odin every now and then on specific maps like Lotus or, before it was patched, Ascent, but that was more of a gimmick pickup designed to punish teams through specific wallbangs. It wasn't until this year that it seemed like it became a viable pickup over guns like the Phantom or Vandal. So what changed? The easiest answer is because of players like Brock.
So the Odin, we saw it tear everything up in Champs. There's a simple reason why it's become more meta, and it's Brock. Brock is the GOAT. Brock is the Odin master. I've worked with Brock on Ghost. I've seen the Odin lifestyle myself. A more serious answer would be that I think the Odin is very strong, but part of the reason it did so well in Champs, in my opinion, was that it was slept on. That there were certain maps like Lotus and Corrode where Odin and even double Odin was a very viable and strong strategy. And I think that it was a slower game this year. Buys has a lot of synergy with the Odin, it turns out, things like that. That's really where the Odin can shine. And because we had a meta at the start of the year with Breach Teo that wasn't really Odin friendly, you know, try Odin spamming, you're gonna get stunned and missiled to death. And because I think there's not a lot of players, professional players, who have leaned into the Odin, really tried to master it and had an identity with it. These two things combined meant that it went really unexplored and untapped, even though it actually was strong. And I think teams got really punished by it. They weren't used to playing against it because not a lot of teams did it other than NRG, so they didn't have solutions ready and they weren't used to it. I think that the Odin is very viable and we'll see a lot more of it because people are going to catch on after this Champs that it's an important style to have in your arsenal, depending on the meta and the map and the comp. But I don't think it's broken. I think that NRG did a really good job tapping into something that was strong and undiscovered and, you know, just did it at the right time in the right place and got rewarded for it. And kudos to them.
People are talking about cringe Odin, but this Yoru Waylay comp is disgusting and gimmicky.
I think
I think the argument can be made the same. I think it's more for the Odin.
I think it's more for the Odin too.
Because it just feels cheap. It's not. Like, there is skill involved, don't get me wrong. And that's good that they're abusing it. But it does feel, as a viewer, very cheap.
Yeah, I think you don't
When you see the kills,
you
right?
don't have to have as much aim to use it, but you do have to like innovate more,
Yeah, you have
think
to do
about
other
ways, because you basically have a brand new solution that you don't have in the game traditionally of like, how do you take these angles? What can I do versus what I can't do?
It's also, I know Brock, and I know that he specifically goes into servers and spams fucking walls. And a lot more goes into it than what you guys see. However, as a viewer, I still get annoyed watching it. Because it's just a joke that there are maps that there's a gun that penetrates every wall. I think it's more on the gun and on the devs to fix it than on someone abusing it.
So I got a confirmation of how much ammo it has. It has 100 ammo and 200 reserve.
And you were saying you wanted less reserve.
I think 100 bullets less than reserve, so you have
I
two
think
clips.
I think you buy it and you only have 100.
No, that would be bro. No, it doesn't necessarily kill the weapon. It allows the weapon to be like useful in its own right, and like you can still spam and shit. But you're more you risk more.
Yeah, you're actually risking something.
Yes, you're risking.
There is
something.
a risk there.
For the longest time, Brock has been abusing the Odin, going back to his time on Moist Moguls, or hell, even Ghost Gaming. So why is this? Is Brock some kind of genius that knew something everybody else didn't? In a way, yeah. Cap brought up a great point about the mindset of players who are grinding ranked. In order to climb the ladder, players tend to rely on gun skill with the more standard guns. Things like the Vandal, Phantom, Sheriff, and Op really let you show off your gun skill, and abusing that is the easiest way to climb the ladder. When you're in the VCT and going against the best players in the world, it's fair to say that everyone can shoot. So aim diffing people like you do in ranked just isn't viable.
Yeah, I think that when you get to the top few hundred players that are in, VCT in the Tier 1 league, I think they've been selected for their individual prowess. And they've gotten where they are by being individually more talented and skilled at the gunplay of the game than other players. When you realize that and climb the ranks doing that, the best way to do that is to lean into your rifle, to your Phantom and your Vandal and your Sheriff and your Guardian and your Op and your accuracy in those things. And I think that players hold on to that really hard. They think, I am in the most control of my skill and my situation with these weapons compared to the Odin because it's not a better gun in a straight up gunfight. I think players who have embraced the Odin are really clever in realizing I'm now at the top level and I can shoot really well, but so can all my opponents. And there's other ways to find advantages. And that's not just my utility or my mid-rounding or my team strategy or my IGL strategy. It's my own ability to abuse and lean into aspects of the game that kind of in that middle period of climbing up to the top go slept on. I think that is the Odin. I think it also includes weapons like the Bucky or the Judge.
Let's take a look at a few rounds where Brock uses the Odin and see what we can learn from these examples. So here we see Brock utilizing the Odin at what it does best, spamming walls into tight chokes. He gets the first kill without seeing anyone. He takes out Boaster first, holding the angle, and then catches Kayak, who swings for the trade. Since the Odin has so many bullets and such a high rate of fire, one of its biggest advantages is that you essentially can't be traded. Just keep spamming that corner after you get the first kill, and there's no way the enemy can swing into you. In this clip, we see a lot of the same. He catches Alpha Air by playing an off angle. Then, he holds down left click and spams the wall while swinging, catching Crashies and Boaster while blind. Then he uses his recon dart to get another wallbang kill into B main. Notice how none of these are straight up fights where he has the opportunity to get aim diffed. He's leaning into the inherent advantages of the gun, and through spamming, is putting Fnatic in a headlock. I mean, what do you do against this? So what does this mean for the future? If I were to look into my crystal ball, I bet on seeing more of these quote-unquote gimmick guns rise to prominence in the future. Like Cap was saying, expect to see guns like the Bucky get more legitimate play at the top level. As more and more people get involved with Valorant and younger players rise through the ranks, the old traditions held over from other games will start to die off, and people who play Valorant first will realize what opportunities the full arsenal offers. That is, unless Riot decides to come out with a fourth patch for the Odin and dial it back just a little bit. But until then, take full advantage of it and spam those walls.